They say money talks, but in Victoria Sterling's world, it screamed. She was the billionaire CEO who thought she could buy anything, including dignity, when she walked out of a blind date, laughing at a single father's cheap suit and the little girl clinging to his leg. She thought she had won. She thought he was just another nobody wasting her precious time. She was wrong. Dead wrong. Because the man she mocked wasn't just a struggling dad. He was a ghost from a war her own father never forgot. And when the general finally saw him, clear his throat, the silence was deafening. He didn't speak. He didn't scold. He saluted. The air in the boardroom of Sterling Global was always set to exactly 68 degrees a temperature Victoria Sterling found conducive to keeping people awake and slightly on edge. At 32, Victoria didn't just run her father's empire. She had weaponized it. She was sharp, stunning in a way that felt more like a threat than an invitation, and ruthlessly efficient. To her, life was a balance sheet. People were either assets or liabilities. The acquisition of Concade Tech is stalled. Victoria, the board director. An overly collogue-drenched man named Arthur Penhaligon droned on. They're holding out for a better valuation. Victoria didn't look up from her tablet. They aren't holding out, Arthur. They're bleeding. Clear's throat. Cut the offer by 10%. They'll sign by Friday. That's aggressive, Arthur stammered. It's business, she snapped, standing up. Meeting adjourned. I have a headache and half of you are breathing too loudly. She stormed out of the glass-walled room, her heels clicking a rhythmic warning on the marble floor. Her assistant, Isabella, was already matching her pace, holding a triple-shot espresso. Your father is on line 1. Miss Sterling again. Victoria groaned, stopping abruptly. Tell him I'm in a tunnel. Tell him I'm dead. I don't care. He says it's about the arrangement for tonight. Isabella said, her voice dropping to a whisper. Victoria took the phone, her jaw tightening. Clear's throat. Father, I thought we discussed this. I don't do blind dates. I buy companies. I don't merge with strangers. General Richard Sterling's voice was gravel and steel, the voice of a man who had commanded thousands but struggled to command his only daughter. Victoria, you promised one dinner. That is all I ask. You've spent the last 5 years turning yourself into a machine. You need perspective. I have perspective, Victoria countered, walking into her corner office overlooking the Manhattan skyline. From the penthouse, the view is great. This isn't about the view, Victoria. It's about character. The matchmaker, Mrs. Hollowell, swears by this man. She says he has integrity. A word you might want to look up in that dictionary of yours. Integrity doesn't pay for private jets, Dad. Just go. Richard sighed, sounding older than usual. For me, please. If you hate him, you can leave, but give him an hour. 7 o'clock at Lombian. His name is Caleb. Caleb. Victoria tasted the name like it was stale bread. Sounds like a carpenter. He's a good man. That's enough. The line went dead. Victoria stared at her reflection in the darkened window. She saw a woman who had everything, a net worth of $4 billion, her face on the cover of Forbes, and a closet full of clothes that cost more than most people's houses. But she also saw the hollowness her father constantly poked at. She hated when he was right. Isabella, she barked. Yes, Miss Sterling, cancel my 7 o'clock with the Japanese investors. I have a date, she said the word with a sneer. And book a table at Lombian, the best one. If I'm going to be bored, I'm going to be bored with expensive wine. She decided then and there she would go. She would be politish and then she would dissect this Caleb with the surgical precision she used on failing companies. She would find his flaw, everyone had one, expose it, and then go home to her silence and her millions. It was just another transaction. Lombian's was the kind of restaurant where the menus didn't have prices and the water was sourced from a specific glacier in Iceland. It was Victoria's turf. She arrived at 7:15 fashionably late, wearing a red Versace dress that cost $12,000 and screamed power. The maitre, a man named Fry, who terrified most patrons, practically bowed when he saw her. Miss Sterling, always an honor. Your table is ready. The gentleman is already waiting. Clear's throat. Henry hesitated. That was the first red flag. Henry never hesitated. Is there a problem? Henry, Victoria asked, raising a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. No, merely. He is not the usual clientele we see with you. Victoria smirked, lead on. They, clears throat, walked through the dimly lit dining room, past senators and tech moguls. Victoria held her head high, ready to see some Wall Street shark or a trust fund artist. Instead, Henry stopped at a corner table. Sitting there was a man who looked like he had stumbled into the wrong movie. He was wearing a suit, but it was ill-fitting. The shoulders were too tight, the fabric a cheap polyester blend that shone under the recessed lighting. His tie was a little crooked, he had dark hair that needed a trim and eyes that looked incredibly tired. But the real shock wasn't the man. It was what was sitting next to him. A child, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, with messy pigtails and a stained pink t-shirt that clashed violently with the restaurant's gold leaf decor. She was coloring on the linen tablecloth with a crayon. Victoria stopped dead in her tracks. She felt a bubble of laughter rising in her throat, not joyful laughter, but the incredulous laughter of someone witnessing a train wreck. You have got to be kidding me, she muttered. The man stood up as she approached. He knocked his knee against the table, rattling the silverware. Hi. You must be Victoria. I'm Caleb Hayes. He extended a hand. His knuckles were rough, calloused. There was grease under one of his fingernails. Victoria didn't take his hand. She looked at him, then down at the child, then back at him. There seems to be a mistake. I was told I was meeting a date, not interviewing a babysitter. Caleb's face flushed a deep crimson. He pulled his hand back. I am so sorry. The sitter cancelled last minute. I didn't have anyone else to call, and I didn't want to stand you up. This is Lily. The little girl looked up, clutching a blue crayon. Hi, I'm drawing a dinosaur. Victoria ignored the child completely. She sat down, not to stay, but to savor the absurdity of it. You brought a child to Lombian.